1,000 without power right now that we know of. We have folks standing by and ready to move as soon as it's safe to do so, and Director Stallings will fill you in a little more on that here at the end of the briefing. As you all know from current events, Idalia made landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast as a Category 3 this morning before dropping to a Category 2, and currently it's Category 1. As it continues to move throughout Georgia. We feel like that'll fall to a tropical storm by the time it leaves us and heads into South Carolina. It entered Georgia around 10 a.m. We're thinking that it's going to get to South Carolina between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. this evening. There's been a heavy impact in South Georgia with heavy rainfall and heavy winds. I know most of the people across the state of Georgia will not feel the impact of the storm, but for those that were in the line of the storm, it is very hard hitting, and we're certainly watching that as it continues to move through the state. We had multiple counties in the affected area that are seeing winds in the 70 to 80 mile per hour and some gust up to 90. We know by radar it looks like we may potentially have in some areas 9 to 10 inches of rain. The good thing is this is a narrow storm and is very fast moving, so it's not sitting on us and dumping. Just to give you some logistics on what Director Stallings has been doing in my direction, we've activated the State Operations Center, as you all know, early Monday morning to monitor the storm's progress and coordinate closely with all relevant agencies that I mentioned earlier, not only at the state but also at the local level, and we've certainly been in touch with our partners at FEMA. The state of emergency was issued yesterday, making state resources available to all local governments and organizations within the hurricane impact area. We have assets staged, and our personnel are in the EOCs in the affected areas, and we're coordinating with our utility providers, and Director Stallings is going to talk a little bit more about that. Lastly, I would just say that we feel fairly confident that we're going to be able to get crews moving here as we move into the afternoon. We obviously have to make sure that the storm passes and it's a safe environment for them to be working. You're talking winds that drop below 35 miles an hour for folks that need to be up in bucket trucks. We certainly want to make sure our first responders stay safe. But as soon as those conditions are right for us to move, we have resources ready and able to do that. Lastly, I would just say when the storm came into our state in counties like Eccles and Lowndes, we've certainly seen a lot of downed trees. I mentioned the power outages, and there has been some flash flooding. So we're going to continue to watch that as the storm moves, but thankfully it is weakening now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Stallings, and then if Will has anything, we'll let him brief you guys, and we'll do some questions. Director.
First and foremost, I want to thank Governor Kemp and the First Lady for their support, their quick action and turning us loose to do the job that we are trained and exercised to do. We do appreciate that. It's that quick response that allows us to fill a room like what you've seen here today with the state assets to do the job we need to do. With that, we are prepared. We've got pre-positioned assets all over the state. That includes State Patrol, DNR, Forestry Commission, Georgia Guard. We're ready. Air assets, drones, search and rescue teams. We have tarps, MREs, waters, all the things that you would think that would be needed in a time like this. We have those pre-positioned and downrange. We also have our staff inside all of the local emergency management centers that are going to be impacted so that we can get those need responses quickly and in a timely manner. Something that we want to remind everybody, though, is that with all the power outages that we have, the trees that are down, it will take us a little while. We always remind you 72 hours is the time frame you need to be thinking before you can expect a true power response. If it's before that, then really we're very pleased, but it takes us a little while to get back into the area. We have to open up roadways. We have to clear right-of-ways. We have to assess transformers, get live wires that are down, disabled, so that we can get crews in there safely. As the governor mentioned, we do need those winds down below 35 before we can get folks up in bucket trucks, and so that's extremely important as well. We have shelters all over the state, so if you had to evacuate due to the storm, we have shelters that are already standing. American Red Cross has got shelters up, and then we have some shelters that are being run by the counties as well. If you need anything, the 1-800-TRI-GEMA number is a number that you can go to that will get you service. You can also visit our website for a list of events. We have a banner scrolling across the top of ours that will get you to a lot of the resources that you might have. Short of that, we're just standing by waiting for the storm to continue to do what it's doing. We're kind of in that wait and hold pattern. But as the governor mentioned, we are hopeful that it's out of the state by 8 p.m. this evening, maybe 10 o'clock, and then that we can begin to assess. For those that were hit first, we will try to get to you first. Our goal is to circle in behind the storm and immediately start providing those resources as we can. With that, sir, we'll take any questions. Will, you have anything you need to add?
Quick weather update.
So, as the governor mentioned, it's a Category 1 hurricane right now. It's weakening pretty quickly. Hopefully will be a tropical storm here within the next few hours as it moves closer toward the Georgia coast. We will still see some heavy rainfall in the meantime and sustained winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour near the core of the storm and gusting higher, and then obviously tapering off as we get closer to the coast. But like they mentioned, hopefully it's out of here within the next 6, 7, 8 hours or so.
All right, Richard.
Damage to Georgia's economy. Talked a little bit about Director Stallings with this. Are you seeing any of that now? Is this a different storm than Michael was 5 years ago?
Well, it's definitely different than that in a good way. Not that any of these things are good, especially if you're in the line. I have not been hearing from any farmers just yet, or Commissioner Harper in regards to any kind of crop damage. I mean, it's obviously a very critical time right now. Marty and I were down in South Georgia last week, and a lot of the farmers were needing a little bit more rain to finish their crop out, but they were also worried about a lot of wind damage, and so we'll just have to see. I mean, I think I'm hopeful that it's a good sign that I haven't gotten calls, because if it was bad, normally I would, but we just don't know yet. I don't know. Have you heard anything in that regard?
Can you talk a little bit about the evacuees and how prepared Georgia is and Atlanta with speedways opening up and needs to get to other parts of coastal Florida, what's happening here?
So yes, Atlanta Motor Speedway did open up. Traditionally, that's more for RVs, campers, things of that nature that can come in. We do have shelters, though, that have been opened up, continue to open as that need arises. Our GDOT partners helped us monitor traffic. We didn't see a huge uptick in what would be normal traffic coming from Florida. They're a very resilient state as well. They were, I hate to say they're used to this by now, but they hold in when they can. So, but we're ready to handle any evacuees. Certainly, our hospitality here in the state of Georgia, we have a great hospitality resource here. We look forward to helping however we can.
Yeah, I know I talked to Commissioner Rabin at DNR yesterday, and we got state parks and other things available for people that need them, so I feel like we have a lot of resources. Jeff.
Thankfully, the storm is moving pretty quickly. Hopefully, it's moving into South Carolina by the time high tide reaches it. I think along maybe the Chatham, Bryan, Liberty County coast, it may be a bit of a closer call. The NHC is saying 2 to 3 feet of storm surge is possible on top of the high tide. So if that lines up with the high tide, then we could see 2 to 3 feet of coastal inundation, which could cause some minor to moderate impacts for sure.
I think one of the good things is this storm is coming through our state. Thankfully this time, not thankfully that it's coming, but thankfully it's coming during daylight hours, so it's a lot easier to monitor, especially for the general public, what's happening on the ground versus trying to do that in the middle of the night when it's dark. Yeah.
When it's going to hit Savannah and how well prepared, and what it's going to be like when it gets into the Savannah area and how well prepared Savannah is right now.
Sure. So it is probably going to be at tropical storm strength when it moves through Savannah between 6 and 9 p.m. tonight. At this rate, I would guess that it's probably going to be tropical storm strength with as quickly as it's as weakening. It will be a pretty tight area that gets that highest wind, though. This is not a wide core of the storm, especially with it weakening. So they'll get some heavy rain, some strong gusty winds tonight around sunset. Hopefully out of there by 10 o'clock p.m. And like I mentioned, maybe some minor coastal flooding as well.
Which I think is good for you all to help us with out there, that even though this storm like isn't as impactful as Michael, and that, you know, we were just talking about there's people already back out on the beaches in Florida, it does not mean that there can't be trees coming down late this afternoon, early this evening in places like Savannah, Chatham County, and power lines coming down. It's still a very dangerous situation that people need to prepare for as the storm moves through the state. Well, I think that's what you all can help us. I mean, listen, this is still a bad storm that's coming through, and when you have a lot of rain, you have the potential for trees to come down, and we just got a report of someone we know that a tree just went through their roof in Valdosta. You know, so it's a dangerous storm. People need to prepare. They need to be ready when it's coming through, and either, you know, move a county or two up if they have the ability to do that. If not, make sure they're in a secure location. Watch out for down power lines and other things of that nature, and just, you know, if they got an hour or two or a couple hours before the storm gets there, get a little extra bottled water if you get cut off or lose power, and just smart things like that. We got a lot of information on the website, and obviously the phone number people can call. Yeah. All that Director Stallings talked about, the FEMA administrator reached out to our team yesterday. We played phone tag, but yes, there has been federal response. We appreciate that. I don't know if you want to mention anything else on the federal side. Normally we're dealing with them mostly post-storm.
Obviously, we're here in the operations center. You guys talk a little bit about what's going to be going on.
Absolutely. So we have emergency support function. As if you look around the room, you'll see them. They're anything from sheltering, mass care, logistics, planning, law enforcement, DOD, energy sector. So these are all subject matter experts that we bring into this room so that when a situation arises, it's immediately answered, immediately handled, immediately resourced. We have a database through WebEOC where the counties, as they see an issue arise, they immediately put it in, and it comes to this desk behind us. They will immediately get it to that group that needs to handle that response. It's a lot of communication going on in this room, a lot of talking, a lot of integral partnerships, a lot of blue sky day work that goes on in this room to prepare for these days.
I think
Absolutely. The sheltering need, for instance, mass care. So we have our VOADs, or our volunteer organizations that assist, American Red Cross. So they'll work with public health. A lot of times we have folks that need to be evacuated, but they're a homebound patient. So we have to get a resource local to do a transport to get them to a shelter. They might need a specific need because of an illness or something, critical care need. So then we would work with the local department health coordinator there to make sure that their needs are being met while they're there. Along with that, a lot of times our seniors that are living at home have a pet that go with them. So immediately we'll turn around and partner with agriculture to find out where we can get a shelter close by so that once the storm is done, they can be reunited with somebody that's extremely important to them and they can go home safely together.
I think the other thing, too, working a lot of these folks work with our private sector partners when you're thinking about, even if it's down in Florida where people are needing fuel, working with our fuel suppliers, trucking companies, and other things to work the logistics out of that, the certainly state of emergency and other tools that we have to help in that regard. Anybody not?
Are there any injuries or deaths reported at this time?
Not yet.
Yeah, none that we know of. Okay. Well, we definitely know in Eccles County that we've got a lot of down trees, power outages. We've had some road blockage on I-75 north, I think it was, that they were trying to clear, and then the winds got too high, so we had to pull everybody out. We've got alternative routes that are part of the hurricane evacuation routes that people are are using. So we know of things like that that we're responding to. I mean, I just had somebody send a video of a transformer blowing at Jekyll Island. So, I mean, you're going to have things like that happen. Thankfully, it's nothing to the scale of Michael was. All right. Thank you all. We'll keep you updated.